Welcome to Andheri. We are in between traffic, and Mumbai means getting stuck in traffic and traveling. That's the only reason why people like playing metal in this city. Because half your rage and aggression comes through either Mumbai locals or traffic. So I have a few familiar faces sitting in the audience. So there'll be a bunch of personal questions, and let's see if people can tackle that with a lot of courage. Yeah, I'm joking. It's just going to be a quick touch and go where we'll speak about music. If you all have any questions about anything, like, why this string, why do you wear the shoes that you're wearing, what did you have for lunch, it's okay. I'll speak about my amp and my setup, and how Laney Ironheart has helped me to find my sound. And when I mean my sound, it's just not, I don't play solo, I'm not a single guitar player. But in the band, yes, uh, this amp definitely complements the sound of my band. And I'm more of a rhythm guitarist, and I like playing rhythm patterns. Uh, I just like digging into the guitar. It's a lot of fun, and I like that beefy chugs. And yeah, I've played on a bunch of amplifiers, but the IRT 120 came extremely close to what I was imagining for a long time. So I started playing on this amp regularly because, especially in India, Futado's Music used to sponsor a lot of gear for all the shows that would happen across Bombay, Pune, to other neighboring cities as well. And the scene was very small back in early 2000. And the moment you see a big fat 4x12 cabinet and an amp on stage, the first question that we would have is like, dude, what do we do with it? इसको बजाते कैसे? क्या करते इसके साथ? So you would always be baffled and think twice, because I had my very tiny little setup. Back then I used to use a Zoom 707, which sounded quite pathetic, but we felt it's the best sounding processor back in the day, and we had a lot of fun. I won't deny it. It sounded the best with a solid state amp, Stranger, but when you suddenly play more shows, and when you understand how to use a good amplifier, it changes your playing. That is what is important. Like, your main sound is in the amp and in your playing. Like, doesn't matter what guitar you use. Like, in the end, if you find that balance, basically dynamics, so all your expression comes from the amp and the cabinet. Like, you're playing the same thing, you're hitting with the same intensity and same rage or whatever, felt or whatever it is. You try that through a digital amplifier. In today's time, everyone prefers using digital amplifiers that, you can select channels. Like, it's like, you have 13 amplifiers on an amp. Like, you have a JC Clean, you have Jazz Chorus, you have old rock, British rock, modern, crazy, insane. They have all these names. It's good to just start off playing and to understand. But, the real growth as a musician is, when you start understanding the gear that makes you play better, the gear that makes you think better, and gears that will help you to push your limits and make you hear things that you possibly didn't imagine that, okay, I can also do this. And this is only possible when I'm using XYZ. So that happened to me when I was playing Laney. And I think it was my happiest moment. I think this was in 2014 Palm Expo, where I saw a bunch of IRT stacks, 4x12, 2x12, and there were a bunch of ESP guitars with active passive pickups. I just kept playing. I just played for like hours, just playing the same riff everywhere. Like, people must probably be tired of me, like, what, this guy doesn't know jack shit. But in my head, I was trying to compute and analyze that, okay, this is what it sounds like, and I think I need this. And the next day I bought my guitars. I was carrying two of my guitars, including my Ibanez, and I have my Dean, and both already had respective pickups, which I changed later, and still it sounded extremely good. Then I realized, like, dude, like, changing putting expensive pickups also didn't make a big difference. I still sound the same. If it's my drawback, sure, why not? But in today's time, there are so many good producers, engineers, who will just say like, hey, just send me cleans, man. I'll give you whatever you want. But yeah, plus point of modern technology, why not? Use it to your fullest. But live, I need that whipping sound through the amp. If I'm not feeling the air, I usually sound check in front of the amp. And my pant has to shake with the low end. That is when I feel satisfied. Like, okay, this is good. This is good. Like, now I'm getting the real chugs. And then the engineer has to, my sound engineer will tell me like, hey, cut the highs, cut the lows, whatever. Because he's trying to mix the band. He's not trying to glorify you. And that's when this amp, for me at least, it just fit in really well. And to complement this, then even our bass player decided to upgrade his gear and do something. And man, it worked like a dream. And I was convinced. And here we are today. I have been endorsing Laney for almost 7 years. Next year will be the 8th year with Laney. And Laney was extremely generous and supportive. They helped me with the amplifier even when I was in Europe touring with my band, 16 different cities. But they said, you are our artist and we will make sure that you get the amp. And I was carrying the exact same setup, 2x12 with the IRT Studio, compact but extremely loud and does the job. So I had a lot of fun. And what I can do is I'll just play one of our songs. It's from our second album. It's called as What Makes Us Human Is Obsolete. This track is called as Shell Broken Hell Loose. Why I like playing this song more often in workshops like this is because it's a slow song. You get to hear all the chugs. You get to hear all the notes. And ideally, I wrote this song when I was using the Laney IRT. So it's like a very simple, effective song. It's catchy. Nothing technical in it. But you'll be able to catch all the expressions. Like, whatever is needed in heavy metal music. So yeah, do we have to do a small test run or we can just start? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it lagged a little bit. Let me just try once again. The monitor on, right? There is a player for this where I can go back. Okay, let's go. No problem. Hey man, thanks. It's been a while. I'm playing in front of people. I don't know, after like almost 2 years. So we all know what happened, and we were all homebound. So yeah, I mean, when I was explaining that why this amp made me write this song is because even simple ideas could be expressed in multiple ways, and I figured that I could use 2 to 3 types of different palm muting to make the same riff sound or have different value or expression, and that's how it helped. But before I get into it, I talk more about that shit. I would like to know if you guys have any questions, so that I can throw some light on it, and then I can talk more about this. Any questions? No. Let it be more interactive, man, rather than just you guys are ghosting me here, like just staring at me. Yes. I mean, there is very less level as of now, and of course there is the same amp sound is going on the PAs, but it's a very straightforward and a minimal setup for this place. But if you're trying to ask what do I do live, then it's a very even that's very simple, to be honest. I also use a Line 6 Pod HD 500. That's mainly like my it's a pedal board, and rather than carrying or lugging like 20 million pedals and fighting with the airline people to let me check in, it's just one simple pod HD, where I have all the effects. What I do is I bypass the amp simulation because I love the distortion sound from the amp. As I mentioned, I have a noise gate on it. I have a chain, but the amp is bypassed. A noise gate, a tube screamer, delay. I have a compression, but I usually switch it on or I don't use it at all based on the venue, because your engineer, your FOH guy is the best guy to tell you whether it's needed or no, because they have like a big spaceship kind of console. Everything's possible in that. So you just tell them what you need, they'll do it. They're very good at their work. So it's very simple. I use 2 signals from my pod. One goes into DI, one goes into the amp. That's where the real stereo sound comes from. Otherwise, just having a patch in your processor and sending out 2 outs, it's as good as mono, because you need 2 separate signals which have like a fraction of millisecond delay time. That is what makes it sound stereo. And just being the single guitar player in the band, the guy who's been producing and helping us, mixing us for almost 17 years, he came up with this idea, and he was like, let's try this, and I think it'll make you sound a lot more fuller and not so tiny. And it actually worked, and we have not looked back from that day. So yeah, man. So even if you're using a tube amp directly on stage, I would suggest you will have to use 2 different mics, even though if it's a 2x12. Use 2 different mics. Probably you can mic one in the center of your speaker, one probably off axis, so that you get a mix of both. One is a little what do you say, sharp and edgy. The other one is all lower mids and heavy. So that's when you get 2 separate signals. When you mix them, and the engineer knows, he'll probably stereo pan whatever they do, and just works really well. But don't forget to carry a noise gate. You don't want the extra humming and feedback, because what happens is when you have too many mics in front of your cabinet, and that's the only source that it's going to come back to you through the monitor, it's going to be a pain. So that's why I use a pod, where the left channel has a simulation on. That's mainly for monitoring, because a drummer and bass player, they use in-ear monitoring. So that's a lot more clean, and it's quite friendly to the ears. No feedback, no dirty noise. It's helpful for us. It works for us, but you will have to figure what will work well for you. So yeah, that's a small gist about my setup. Any more questions? I'm still not that brave. For some reason, I trust the whole. What do you say? I like to hear my instruments. To an extent, I also crank my amp on stage, because I have to feel the amp on stage. And I mean, considering the way our new album is shaping out, there are a lot of layers and samplings and everything. So even that is musically timed, and we are following those cues. So I have no option. Once the third album is out, I will have to go with in-ears. So new year, new resolution, start using in-ear monitors. So we have a show on 22nd of December that we're playing at Antisocial. It's called as Scarfest. We're calling it Mumbai Metal Party. Why? Because that's going to be the heaviest party in town, and that's the last heavy metal gig that you'll get to attend. And everyone's invited. You can just come and have fun. You got some really cool artists. And that's going to be my last show on monitors and stage wedges. After that, you'll see me with in-ear monitoring. So, any other question?
I don't know if you have already answered this question. Is this current setup is similar to your live setup?
Absolutely not.
So what are those things that you use?
I just use a Pod HD 500.
Oh, perfect.
So I like to split my signal, and that's my pedal board. And Line 6 makes really good stereo splitters. They're very clean, they're very reliable, and I've been using that since 2015, and I've used it like crazy. Like, it's seen a lot of action, and लोगों ने बहुत यहाँ वहाँ ठोका है उसको, फिर भी it just works. And especially during our set, like people come on stage, they start jumping on stage, and they have stepped on my processor, changed patches. I've had some nice cool sounds in a metal show. So we've had all that kind of fun. It still survived. It survived floods. There was almost 1 feet water in my studio, and my pod was floating in it, but somehow it survived. So yeah, I love the Line 6. That's my savior. The day it cranks or it dies, I'll have to move on to Helix, because I know that I've also used the X3. They just make some good product, and I'm married to it, just like I'm married to Laney. So very simple setup. One Pod HD 500. Yes, I use the Laney IRT 120 live. I have to have a foot switch, because the moment, especially when it's a little bit more gain, if I switch this on, that noise, so only a noise gate can get rid of that. So even if my knob is on, my volume knob, but with the noise gate, even this doesn't come. So I have to literally go close to the amp to hit my guitar to get some sort of a gain and get some feedback for showbiz. So yeah, any other questions? Are we good? Okay. I think we have some questions over here, is it? How do I maximize the screen? Sorry, I'm a Windows person, and this concept is very alien. I can't see the questions that have come on the side. Okay, so we have some very interesting comments which I would like to hear. No, Neil, it's not your comment, don't worry. So good Samaritan, his name is Abhishek Jonathan. He's asking whether I can play AC/DC Thunderstruck. I will play that for you, Abhishek, but for that you'll have to come for a show. It's on 22nd of December. So we are taking special requests only at Scarfest. So Thunderstruck for you over there. We'll also play Highway to Hell and whatever you want, because that day we are accepting donations, and we are ready to become jukebox, live jukebox. Where you can actually see a band play. If you can play the guitar solo, please come and join us on stage. That's the best offer you can get. Okay, so I have a good friend Rajas. He's saying Kandivali rocks. Excellent. Yeah, I agree to an extent. Not during Navratri though. It's very chaotic, and people are not considerate. They litter all over. Yes, Kevin wants to meet the engineer. So Kevin, you have to be more specific what engineer you want to meet. There is one over here who's being very nice to me and helping me how to use a MacBook and setting my sound. Or you want to meet Akash Sawant. He's not here. He's in Indore right now. So you can video call him. So if you guys have any questions about Laney, IRT Studio, or the 120 watt or any other product, please feel free to ask. And in the meantime, I'll play the second track. Yeah, I think we have some time, right? We have like good 45 minutes. Cool. Of course, somebody is trying to defend Thakur Village. I agree, man. Thakur Village is great. I have my studio there. Please drop in someday if you want to learn guitar. My door is always open. Okay, great. So, how many of you have been for a Zygnema gig? That's the $1 million question. Okay, so anything that you all can remember from the gig, if you all have any questions with regards to that, I'll be more than happy to like share some information with you all.
But I remember it was, I don't know, 2012.
Okay.
And the gig was in E69 Bajaao. It was, I don't remember the venue.
It must be 2011.
11, yeah. So it was a basement.
You'll have to start all over again. Our well-wishers want to hear you.
Yeah. So it was back in 2011 when I was in the Zygnema gig. I don't remember the name of the venue because I was with my friends and they were like, "Chalo."
Did the venue look very shady?
It was, yes, and it was a kind of a basement.
Oh,
And
the
it was-
basement.
It was fully packed.
Okay.
And what happened is once the gig started, all the doors were closed
Okay.
and people were smoking pot. And the smoke was all around.
So if it's a basement, then definitely it was not B69. B69 was one floor up.
Okay.
And that venue was a savior for most of the metal bands from India. In fact, it was started by Bajaao. So half of our life spent in Andheri. Like I think I spent 10 years of my youth in Andheri. Like my office was in Andheri. Like you walk 200 meters. The venue is right there to play the gig. You walk 400 meters back. We are back in the jam room. So it was a great time. And yeah, B69 hosted even international bands. I don't know if you guys have heard of this band called as Hack Ride from France.
No.
So one of their gigs in Goa got cancelled. So
Wow.
we just asked them like, "Hey guys, you want to play a show in Bombay?" They're like, "Yeah, why not?" So they are at B69 and the venue is packed, and it was an insane show. I mean, we got a lot to learn from Hack Ride because even in a small place that was not well done up or soundproof with tiles all around, they sounded brilliant. And the guitar player was just using the PV in fact, and he had just like 4-5 pedals. He was using a Jackson guitar and oof, I mean, chunky. It was damn beefy, and that's when you tend to have this realization as a young guitar player that okay, I want to sound equally good. I want to sound equally heavy. When I went and asked him what he's tuned to, he was not tuned that low, and I was quite surprised. I'm like, how do you manage to get that sound? And that's when he told me, bro, it's in the hand and the amp. I'm like, okay, I shall work on it. And yeah, somewhere the Ironheart has managed to give me that comfortable space to get that real sound. So yeah, B69 all the way. Did you attend Big 69?
Yeah. Big Six.
It was a massive festival.
Yes, I did.
More than what? 50, 60, 70 bands? I don't know. 2-3 days of craziness.
Yes.
It's too good. Oh, so we have an old friend, Tushar Dhanavade, who's saying B69 is a part of our lives. So, there are too many defenders of B69. Good to see that, Very heartwarming. Okay, so the next song that I'll play for you guys is... but before I proceed, I was speaking about those tiny dynamics that I managed to get through this amp. I would just like to throw some light on it because that is what impressed me the most about this amp. So right now it's on my regular setting that I used to play all out. So when I'm going. But then even when I just hit it. you can hear the drive, you can hear the grain in it, but it's not, I don't know, it's not very bad, you know. Usually when it still cuts through. You know, sometimes, you know, when you don't get this right setting, it might just sound like water gushing through steel pipes, you know. It's just everywhere. There is no note differentiation at all. I'm not talking about clarity, but at least that differentiation is required. So even when you end up playing proper bar chords, you know, that you play on acoustic guitar, on you know, it sounds extremely tight and raw, and I love it, like, you know. So I'm even palm muting as well as I'm strumming. But you can still manage to get the difference, right, in the chord, even if I'm moving, like whether it's a whole step or a half step. That's like a proper full chord when I'm playing the power chord. So it suddenly just makes you're aware of the different sound. So even if I'm playing stretched chords, you know. Or even if you're working on an inversion, like this part of, you know, you cranking up the gain, like I'm sure you all have heard, everyone's heard Gojira. So you know the most famous breakdown from that song, Remembrance. So that's when I actually, when I was trying this, just the breakdown, because it was so interesting and catchy. Again, I was trying on this amp. I'm like, why does it sound so realistic? Because it's a real amp. So you get whatever you're expecting. You know, you get the real beef and the chunk. So like, you know. So it's a amp that used to, I would always sit with it and just keep exploring my guitar. I was not really practicing chops or techniques. I was just sitting and exploring the instrument. When I mentioned it, it just pushes you to play better. And nobody can define what playing better means. You might write simple songs, but you know, if your songs are great and if it sounds great, you know, your mission accomplished. Like, unless you want to be Marty Friedman or, you know, Jason Becker, who want to like sweep 3,000 notes in 1 minute. So for that, you'll have to practice for like 18 hours a day and, you know, become antisocial and not meet people or lock yourself in the bedroom. But, you know, you don't want to do that. You want to have fun. So for me, that was the greatest experience and revelation with this amp, where I would still date, you know, when I plug in my guitar and I jam in my studio, automatically I just start writing riffs. I'm not trying to work on a cover anymore. It's been more than 10 years that, you know, like, yeah, I listen to a lot of bands and, you know, their riffs excite me. I want to learn that. But by default, it's a subconscious effort. I plug in and I'm just playing some random riffs, and suddenly those random riffs start becoming a structure, and the structure starts entering into the jam room, and then it becomes our song. So that is what an amp should ideally do. It should sound so good. It should make you sound good, and it has to be productive. So this boy is my productive piece of tool. Okay, so we have a bunch of questions here. I'm going to go one by one. So DBM Drum has a question. He's asking, what could be the way for lead guitarists to improve their timing? It just seems like rhythm guitarists don't have to go through that. My friend, you are in a different universe at the moment. Rhythm guitarists hold the band together. If they goof up in timing, even if the lead guitarist is Marty Friedman, he'll sound like shit. I'm sure you have heard of this band called as Meshuggah. It's all about syncopation polyrhythms. And Frederick Thorndal can improvise every day on tour because the rhythm section, that is, their bass player Dick Lovren or Martin Hagstrom or Thomas Hack, they are all holding the rhythm so well. And it's a fact that even if you want to be a good lead guitarist, you need to know how to play in between pockets. And for that, you have to be a good accompanist. And to be a good accompanist, you have to be an excellent rhythm guitar player. And all lead guitar players are fantastic accompanists because they just know how to make the other person sound good. Because when somebody is improvising on leads, they are just expressing. It's like, I don't know if this comparison or reference is correct, but like how gully rappers just come up with some phrasing and then they start getting interested and then they start refining it. So lead is exactly like that. They come up with a lick or an idea, they start improvising, then they start liking something, then they start making it a lot more concrete. So that is when you start understanding that phrasing is important in soloing. Even your bend is played in time. Even your vibrato, even your legato, name any technique, it's all played in time. It has to be in sync. And if you ask yourself, what is the basic definition or what is music made up of? Two things, rhythm and melody. So you minus rhythm, even melody doesn't exist. So you will have to work on rhythm. So be a great accompanist, you'll automatically become a good lead guitarist. And if you want to improve your timing, play everything very slowly. Like there is an excellent 1 hour video by Andy Timmons. And Andy Timmons has basically expressed his heart out in that lesson, where he just sings a melody without the guitar and then he plays the exact same melody on the guitar. It's like, he sings through his guitar. And of course, everything is in rhythm, syncopated, well phrased. And once you spend enough time with that video, you'll understand that, okay, even melody requires a lot of rhythm work. So do not be biased and work towards both. I hope that answers your question. If not, whenever you meet me in person, we can have this long chat. I'll be more than happy to share whatever I have. Okay. So Kevin has a question where he's straight up comparing how is the Laney tube amp in comparison to Neural DSP. So I've recently started using Neural DSP, but it's mainly for recording. I also use THU, and they both are great. They both are great softwares, and they're pretty close to a good amp. So what my ears tell me is that back in the day when we would hear, our favorite bands get into the studio, try tons and tons of combinations, like, probably a Mesa head over your Marshall cab, or, bunch of mix and match combinations with tons of pedals. In fact, the musicians wouldn't do their homework. It would be the engineers or the producers, who actually knew what they wanted the band to sound like. The musicians just wanted to come in the studio, play, finish recording the album and go. So considering we are in 2022 and, a lot of home producers are evolving, a lot of great producers are evolving, and they're always traveling. So they have some great VST plugins that help musicians like us to, save a lot of money and not spend insane amount of money in studios to get the sound. So for me, it's like, the Neural DSP is like spending 10 hours inside a studio to get that sound. If I have to summarize that in a layman's language, like if I would spend 10-15 hours just to get that one guitar tone, probably then I would be like, okay, yeah, this is great. But for me, any good VST plugin, you just plug it in, you dial in great sound. Your engineer knows how to, what kind of chain to use and how to mix it based on your playing, and it's right there. But even that requires a little bit of exploring. I personally like it, but I cannot use that live. I mean, there are a lot of artists who use a lot of VST plugins live and they sound great. But Unfortunately, it doesn't work for me as of yet. Hopefully, in the future, when I become a lot better, then I might try it once. But thankfully, Laney has given me that kind of a. I mean, it's made me very comfortable, and we all are happy with it. I'm personally happy with it. So let's see, Laney for the win, at least for me. So Rajesh is asking me how different will our new album be from the older ones. Uh, my friend, it's I would say we are trying to push ourselves to do something new with our playing, with our songwriting, without forgetting our roots, without forgetting you know the core essence that groove is important, catchy riffs are important. So we are not compromising on that, but definitely a lot of soundscaping is coming in, a lot of samples, and a lot of cooler things that probably I personally was not open about back in the day. Uh, so I think it's just that time and age, where we are all willing to accept and improvise and adapt and evolve. So definitely it's a step up for us. Even when we listen to our newer songs, which are unreleased right now, it's it's different. Uh, we are definitely taking a new route, but it's not something that will completely throw us off as musicians, because end of the day we are writing music to keep ourselves happy first, and we play the same music live. So you know if we are not having fun playing our own music, then there is no point. It's like you want to ride a Harley Davidson, but then you're riding a moped. It doesn't give you the same feel. I know, bad connection, but it has to be that grand. It has to be that satisfying. So it's reached that level, and it's different, but it's fun, and we can't wait for you guys to hear it. Hopefully, we have some releases lined up in the coming year. And yeah, man, if you can fly down from France and see us on 22nd, you might have some surprise lined up for you. So Naman's asking me whether I've used Axe FX. I mean, yes, Naman, I've used Axe FX, but I've used it twice, mainly for reamping and trying out new tones for a single, and previously for a demo when Axe was completely new and I was not introduced to the Laney Ironheart. And I mean, it's a great device. I mean, it's more like a preference. Like if I'll ask you, hey man, do you like eating veg or non-veg? Some people say I like a balanced diet. So you can say I'm somewhere in that space. Like I'm open towards trying anything in the studio, but I know that my solution and my comfort lies here. So 90% of my sound is the Laney Ironheart. Axe is great for a lot of modern prog guitar players. Even Steve I started using Line 6. Not Line 6, sorry. He's using the Fractal Audio, Axe FX. I mean, it's a fantastic device to tour with, and it's again people find it very reliable. And in fact, we were playing a Bombay Metal Project set at Big 6 9. So that time again I got to use Axe FX for the first time on stage, and it played like a dream because there were too many guitar players, too much changeovers. So to avoid all of that and to save time, it was a quick plug in and plug out, and we had a lot of presets and patches made ready to go. So it's once you know how to use your once you know how to work around it, it's very very effective. So yeah, it works for a lot of people. Easier to travel and carry when you're a touring musician, definitely. But when you're with good people of Laney, doesn't matter in what part of the world you are, they will send you an amp. So I didn't even have to carry. I just had to carry my guitar and my pod, and the amp was there. So happy camper. Use more Laney. Okay, I think I've answered all questions. We are almost coming to an end of this wonderful workshop. It was great talking to all of you all. One song to say goodbye, and then you guys get to see us on 22nd. Us in the sense Mumbai Metal Mandal. It's like a big jam between 25 musicians. It's going to be a lot of fun, and be there. My friend, you'll have to again help me. Yeah. This is what happened to me when I went to study in the US. Our library had all iMacs. And I was like, okay, what is this machine? What does it even do? I was looking for Mozilla Firefox back then. And they said, no, we don't have that. We have Safari. I'm like, okay. See, I used to take so much effort. Windows people love convenience, don't we? So yeah, that was Phoenix Effect from the second album. One of my most favorite and fun songs to play live. I think. Hussein, how much time do we have? 5 minutes. Great. So there's a lot of muting, unmuting, full chords, bar chords in this song. And again, like I used to enjoy playing this song mainly because I could hear these sounds coming from the amp, and I was so damn happy that okay, I can actually do this. So practicing with a good amp is always important, and do not depend on small 10-watt amplifiers, and don't expect sound like James Hetfield. Even he's got about 30 amplifiers stacked up behind backstage that nobody can see, and there are just 4 amps in front for you guys to see. The first time when we were playing a show in Germany, I didn't even know there is something called as ISO cab. I was like, what the hell is ISO cab? What does ISO stand for? Then the guy had to explain it's an isolated cabinet. So it's just one speaker inside a box with a clip where you can connect your 57 microphone, and you cover it. It's like a box. It's closed. And it's like a packed mini studio where you get the cleanest sound, like, no sound from outside at all. And I was supremely flabbergasted. I'm like, oh wow, what is this? Like, a speaker in a box, and that's how it sounds. Like, I should try it. But then unfortunately it belonged to the band that was headlining and playing after us. They're like, no, you have this amp, you can play that. And it was way back in 2010, 11. I had no endorsements. I just had my guitar and my pedal board. And hey, let me connect somewhere, What can you guys give me? So he was kind enough to give me his big full stack, 4x12, 2 cabinets in one amp. And my god, it sounded great. But I couldn't try the ISO cab, sadly. But it's something like that, when you travel, when you meet a lot of musicians, you tend to try their gear. You get to learn from them a lot. And what I learned is that I will still learn if I travel more and meet a lot more musicians, because they have so many secrets, they have so many advice and tips that they can share, and it just changes your playing. Like 2010, I used to use a Jazz 3 guitar pick, which is very shrill and thin, and even I couldn't notice it, but the boys from my band would complain, like, it's not sounding heavy enough. So one fine day, this fantastic guitar player from our city, who also plays for a band called Scribe and Exhumation, Prashant Shah, he just asked me to show me my guitar pick. He just chucked my Jazz 3 and he gave me his 2mm Gator Grip guitar pick. And just by using that guitar pick, I sounded 5 times heavier. I'm like, dude, what happened? Like, you're not aware a lot of things. You're young. You just want to play music. You're not looking at improving your sound. But, when you focus on improving sound, automatically your playability, your appearance, tonal appearance, everything just changes for the best. And that's how my journey for hunting for a decent sound to complement my band began. And thankfully, with the 2mm guitar pick, I had Laney IRT. Do we have any questions, or the stream is done? One question? My friend, you shut the screen. Let me buy you a Cadbury Dairy Milk because I've burnt a lot of calories for you today. No, I don't endorse Cadbury, sorry. Oh, that's a very direct question, Naman. Do I give guitar lessons? Yes, I do. As people are chanting Kandivali Rocks, it's quite obvious. My studio is in Kandivali Thakur Village. So you can reach out on Instagram or on Facebook, wherever. You can search for Guitar Garage INC and you can just drop a message. But today's mantra is get a good amp. And if you have stolen somebody's amp, give it back. Don't keep other people's amp. It's very important. I don't give you a good sound. And play hard, play loud. If it's a tube amp, don't keep it at 10%. crank it up. That is when you'll find the tone. And if you think your parents are going to go all berserk and hysterical, then just take the amp, go to a studio, book for like 3 hours, and just play your heart out. And then you'll be surprised that, okay, just by cranking the amp, you could hear such fine, beautiful elements that you need to improve your playing. So yes, that's about it. Thank you guys. Thank you Bajaao.com. Thank you Laney Amplification. Thank you Laney India for always supporting independent musicians and being there for them. So you guys can be musicians too. Just make sure that you'll practice well so that they'll come in your help and help you out during your gigs. See you guys on 22nd, and thank you once again.